Good evening, everyone. I almost said good morning again. Good evening. Welcome to our Good Friday gathering. Tonight will be a little different. Some of you have a preview, but tonight will be more of a prayer experience than like a regular teaching or those kinds of things. So we'll tell you about that a little bit later. But we are going to sing, so we do want to do that. So if you're able, if you would like to stand, we're going to sing a couple songs as we focus on the journey toward the cross.
At the foot of the cross, where grace and suffering meet, you have shown me your love through the judgment you received, and you won my
a seat. We do have one more song that we're going to sing, but we're going to use that as a kind of a prayer going into the stations. It'll make a lot more sense when you realize the song that we're singing and how appropriate that is for that. But I want to set up tonight of what's going to happen. Some of you have been through various voyages like this. What you're going to trek tonight is actually pretty ancient. The Stations of the Cross has been something that Christians have been practicing for generations upon generations. Now, most people, a lot more people who are of the Catholic tradition are familiar with the Stations of the Cross. This is something that they do quite frequently. And there's a lot of things I appreciate about Catholicism. This is one of them. And so I have experienced the Stations of the Cross in various types of venues. Now, if I had an unlimited budget and immense property and unlimited resources of people, this would be a lot more expansive. We go out in the parking lot and have all sorts of things going on, but keeping it a little simple by keeping in this room tonight. So what's going to happen is that there's a guide that's on the back table. If you didn't grab that already, that's okay if you didn't. And we've done prayer stations here before with other events. We did one for Ash Wednesday to start the Lenten season. The difference between that and this tonight is that this is meant to be done in order. So there's 14 stations, actually 15 if we count this one, 14 stations that you do in order. And so just to let you know how it works is station 1 is back there. So every table has 2 stations, and they're kind of sequential. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then this is the last one, which we didn't give a number for some odd reason, but that's what it is. So just to let you know, that's how the flow will work. And we've made it accessible on both sides of the tables, so you don't have to feel like you don't necessarily have to hover around the tables, but you can hover both sides. You'll find out as you go through the guide. The guide's great, and we'll try to keep the lighting up enough where you can read it, but we'll also have a rotating slides on the screen for each of the stations that'll go like every 20 seconds or so. But if you need to get more light, if you want to get into the light, there'll be places where you can read a little better, but that guide will help you out. And really what this night is about traditionally is that Christians use this as a way of praying through the journey of Jesus to the cross. And really pausing to remember one moment at a time. And so the other thing that will happen, whether you use your phone or a digital device, we also have Bibles on the bookshelves back there. You'll be reading portions of Scripture at each station with the story of that particular station. You'll be invited to reflect and pray on something, and there's usually something experiential. If you were here on Wednesday, when we did the Passover Seder, what you find in the Bible is that the Jewish people, there is a lot of multi-sensory elements to their worship, a lot of word pictures to really make tangible these grand truths, and that's what will happen tonight on a more simplified level. And as we're really just walking the journey from Jesus' condemnation, where he was condemned and arrested to be put on trial, all the way to his burial. That's the journey for tonight. And what began as a pilgrimage to Jerusalem is where this originated, eventually just became a devotion that could be practiced anywhere. In fact, Sally and Dave were telling me about a place in a small town in Texas that has, like, what was it, 190-foot cross at the end of this? Yeah. So, there's all sorts of people that continue to practice this. And today it just comes to you here. What I want to do, because I know a lot of times, I get up here and talk a lot. I'm not going to be preaching a sermon tonight. You're not going to get a lecture. There's no performance. There's no special drama, nothing like that. It's literally just a time for you to pray. And the great thing is you don't have to worry about getting it right, or am I doing the right thing, or can I check the list on the box kind of thing. That's not what this is designed to be. It's designed to slow down and to be present to what Jesus walked through, and just to let it meet you where you are today. And I would just encourage you as you go through these. The last thing you want to do is to go through these quickly. It's not designed to be quick. It's designed for you to go at a slow pace. And you have the time to do that here. We're not rushing you. We're not judging you if you get it done in record time. There's no competition for this. It's just a time for you to really reflect upon these things. And you'll recognize that as you go through each of the stations of what it's asking you to do. So there's all to say that there's really no wrong way to do this. So whatever prompt feels right for you in the moment, that's what you do. So we do ask a couple of things. One, move quietly, but do it at your own pace. This is a contemplative space tonight. If the station feels like it holds you longer than what you expected, I would just say go with that. Just stay there and let it soak in. There are some stations that invite a physical action. There's picking up stones, there's lighting candles, there's blowing out candles, there's pressing your finger into dirt. This isn't something like, it's not type of contrived experience. This is just trying to connect you in prayer to this journey. Just simple ways of helping your body participate in what your heart is processing. And so sometimes there might be some stations where the emotions like rise up a little bit, whether it's grief or gratitude or relief or heaviness. I would just encourage you to just let that be welcome with you, and that's okay. And maybe that means you stay at some stations longer than others. On a few logistical, practical implications, when you get over here, there's a station over here, 1, 2, 3. It's the fourth station. You'll be invited to light a candle. There is a plastic sheet that is underneath the candles. It sticks out beyond the table. I put blue tape on each of the corners just to let you know that it's there. So in case you decide to creep up right to the table and bump it, you might be setting people or the church on fire. So we don't want that to happen. So I'm just letting you, I didn't want to cut the plastic to fit the table. I just let it sit. It's not too far. It's like a couple inches past each end. So just be aware of that as you're doing that. And you're lighting candles anyway, and there's lighters there. Just if you don't know how to use those lighters, you push with your thumb and the trigger at the same time. That keeps the big kids like me from setting things on fire. So that's how that lighter works there. There's also another station here. You see a couple chairs here, some tape on the ground. That's a station that's inviting you to kneel. That's what the blue tape is for. If you do not feel comfortable doing that, you can sit in the chair, or you can just stand with your head bowed. The guide will tell you that, but just to make you aware that that's what they're for. There's also some chairs that are facing the wall. This doesn't mean you're in trouble, but you should pay attention to the guide to ask you what it's doing. But that's what that is over there. We'll keep tabs on this where the candles are currently. We're just inviting you to blow them out. I don't know how hot the holders will be or anything like that. So if you feel comfortable just going right up to it and blowing out, you do you, whatever works. So I think that's everything. The last thing that will happen is you'll come to the table here, where the bread and the cup are here, and the guide will show you this. But to let you know, the last thing that happens tonight is for you to come to this table and to partake, and you can put the glass back at the kitchen window when you leave, but you will then exit the sanctuary when you're done. Or if you want to sit and pray a while, you can do that. But that is the last thing. We're not coming back together to have a wrap-up, nothing like that. Literally, as soon as we start the stations, that is the experience, and that is the end. And so we'll just go through each of the stations until you take the bread and the cup and you walk out the door. And I would just say, if you could keep your conversations to a minimum or at least quiet, we'll close those doors when we start the stations. But just respectful of people that are continuing to pray through the journey of the stations across. Hopefully that makes everything clear. If you have questions, the great thing is the guide will just guide you through the whole thing. It's pretty simple, telling you what you're doing, what it's for, why you're doing it, gives you some options to reflect, and then move on. So it's front and back. It's about 6 pages, I think, front and back. So just be aware of that when you're going through that. I think that's it. And so we're going to sing one more song because I think this song's appropriate for a prayer as we go into this. We want this to be a time of prayer for all of us. So we thought this song would be appropriate just to offer our hearts to God tonight, to be open to whatever He wants to say to us, whatever He wants us to wrestle with, whatever He wants us to think about, to live differently, whatever that may be. So if you're able, if you want to stand as we kind of sing this, and maybe, I do like, we're doing a lot of things with our bodies today in these stations, and maybe if you're up to it, there's no obligation, just as as a posture, just to have your hands open, even if you just have your hands open in this, as we're singing the words, "Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true." So let's sing that together.
Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. I am found. I am yours. I am loved. I'm made pure. I have life. I can breathe. I am healed. I am free. You are strong. You are sure. You are life. You endure. You are good. Always true. You are light breaking through. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. Here's my life, Lord. Here's my life, Lord. Here's my life, Lord. Speak what is true. Speak what is true. Here's my heart. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. Speak what is true. Speak what is true. One more time. Speak what is true.
Make sure that you grab a guide, grab whatever Bible, whether physical or digital, and just remember that Jesus walked this road for you by name. So walk it back toward him. Amen.
Genesis 3 reminds us of the curse that befell humanity because we decided we didn't need God to live the best life. He said to the first humans, he told the woman, I'll multiply your pains in childbirth. You'll give birth to your babies in pain. You'll want to please your husband, but he'll lord it over you. He told the man, because you listened to your wife and ate from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from, don't eat from this tree. The very ground is cursed because of you. Getting food from the ground will be as painful as having babies is for your wife. You'll be working in pain all your life long. The ground will sprout thorns and weeds. You'll get your food the hard way, planting and tilling and harvesting, sweating in the fields from dawn to dusk, until you return to that ground yourself, dead and buried.
Amen.